Insurance company and affiliates. Coverage included with purchase of collision.
Hey, Kateri to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy and foggy conditions with a low of 33. Then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 46. Dinosaur World is taking over Children's Theater Company for an immersive tour where you can feel the roar and even smell their stinky breath. Get ready to face a T-Rex and be sneezed on by a Triceratops. Dinosaur World runs now through April 5th. Get your tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi, to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, this episode of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Minnesota Public Radio and Little Moments Count. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. And we got a couple cool guests on here. I'm going to bring them on. We have Rachel. Rachel, welcome to Native Roots Radio. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Rachel Smith, and I'm a lifelong resident of St. Paul, Minnesota. I am a member of the Sichangu Lakota Oyate, and I work as a family coach out of the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center.
Awesome. And do you mind introducing yourself too, young warrior there? Ho!
Hi, everyone. My name is Kateri DeShaw. I'm a mom of 2 little ones. I'm a transplant from South Chicago. but I've been in Minnesota now for over 10 years. And I lived in Duluth for a while and have been in the Twin Cities for the last 8 years now. And I work as the Outreach and Connections specialist for the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center, as well as the Economic Mobility Hub family coaching program.
Awesome. Hey, for listeners who may be hearing about it for the first time, what is the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center, and what makes it unique for Native children and families?
Yeah. So my child actually goes there. He's going to turn 6, and he's gone there throughout his preschool life. So I would say for us, it means community and connections, as well as choice in educational philosophy, which was huge for us. The Montessori gave us a pathway to choose, feeling empowered to choose how we wanted to engage our child in education, and also gives us a place to connect with other Native families who share similar views. And so it means a lot for us, and it's very unique. We have not found anything in the state that is similar, and we'll be sorry to age out, but it's a very special place.
Yeah, and Rachel, I'm a lifelong St. Paulite too, so shout out to you. So talk a little bit about your experience with the Montessori model.
Well, it's a indigenous Montessori school, and that's something that is, very unique, like Kateri said. I actually have a child that goes there too, and will be graduating this summer. It's really nice to see, the Montessori method blended with American Indian child raising practices. So it's nice that my child gets to learn Ojibwe and Lakota and, get involved in their community. It is a very, very special place.
Yeah, well, language is so important, and I can say for a good generation or two, we've really lost it with boarding schools and assimilation and things like that. So the Montessori model is so important. Kateri, can you, as a mother yourself, what do you think the children need most in the first 5 years? Grow up confident in who they are. And I'm going to ask you that too, Rachel.
Yeah. Honestly, before joining the Montessori, I feel like that was such a complex question for me. But after experiencing the Montessori method and watching, my child flourish in it is something that makes a lot of things clear for me. So the Montessori is it's child-centered. And it's child-led. So you follow the child's curiosity. And I believe that is right in line with indigenous ideals of children are sacred beings. And in the Montessori classroom, in the Montessori's children's house, you can really see that come to life because they treat the children with such respect, and it's like a mutual give and take of respect. They practice practical life works. So they're sewing, they're washing dishes, they're making bread, as preschoolers. And before I would have said oh wow, there's no way a 3-year-old would want to make banana bread all the way through the process. But at the Montessori and through the Montessori method, you can really see that because they're centering the child's curiosity. So if the child is curious about, a recipe, they're there to guide and to really respect the child's ways of doing things with giving them tools and practical advice. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Rachel, what are your thoughts about that? With the first 5 years, how important these Montessori experiences for our Native children?
Well, it's about having routines, and learning about boundaries, like for yourself, for others, learning how to be respectful, how to effectively communicate with peers and adults. Once those basic things are in place, and the child feels secure. So we have two, parenting programs in the school. One is Positive Indian Parenting, and the other is Circle of Security. And we really focus on the child being secure so that that confidence can grow. And it's really nice to see. Like, we'll get some 3-year-olds who are very nervous and shy and they don't want to come to school. By 6
Mhm.
years old, they are little mentors to the other children. So the 3-year-olds are encouraged to go to an older child for help. So I think that's really nice with having like the blended ages in the classroom.
Well, and they're also relearning what they're teaching, and that's so amazing for somebody that age. I taught high school, and we did a lot of that, but at that young age, that's amazing to hear. Kateri, you work for an economic mobility hub. Would some listeners may not know about what is the hub and how does it support Native families raising young children?
Yeah, yeah. So the Economic Mobility Hub is a collaborative organization. It's a collaboration between the Department of Indian Work of St. Paul, as well as the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center, which is very important because what we are trying to do is true systems change. We're providing wraparound support for families who may be right on the cusp of, getting to that next level. And so we help families uh, through a family coaching model. Each family is paired with their own family coach that they have access to. They have weekly meetings, the hub. We also have monthly programming for families to get together. Also skill building opportunities for families. But really what it is it's supporting families to empower them, but also introduce them to healthy community, um, and then hoping that they feel empowered enough that eventually they enter community to be leaders themselves. Um,
Let's
yeah.
talk. Let's talk more about that. We're going to take a quick break. Hey, we are Native Roots Radio, and this is a show about a little moment's count in a Montessori school. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Age Jagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org. Aho, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and I want to be your next United States Senator, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is our Little Moments show, and for more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org. And we are talking to our friends about Montessori American Indian Child Care Center, MAICC, and Economic Mobility Hub. And Kateri, do you mind finishing your thought? I think some of the bumper music might have caught you at the end there for break.
Yeah, no, I think I was talking about, we really strive to build healthy community and empower families that work with us to engage in healthy communities in a leadership sense. And so we're trying to change the systems that for a long time have, I feel like serviced communities in ways that were not asked for. And we're trying to empower the voices of families who are working with us to utilize the supports and community that are going to lift them up. As opposed to keep them in a cycle. So we do a lot of, community resource connection. It's heavily, we have our own goal plan system that we created that's culturally relevant to our families that we work with, called the 7 Generations Plan. And so it's really a multifaceted program. It's very exciting.
Yeah, that does sound exciting. And can you explain a little more about the 7 Generation Family Plan?
Sure. Yeah. So we have created the 7 Generation Family Goal Plan. And really what that is families work on that one-on-one with their family coach. And it's really a living document where it centers the family in what they envision for themselves. And then it kind of helps break it down into smaller pieces. And then it's really wonderful because it keeps coming back to that concept of building goals and really a life, not just for yourself, but for the 7 generations after you, right? And then, but also realizing that you're coming from 7 generations behind you and what you might want to carry forward and what you might want to heal with. And so it really centralizes, healing and building and then moving forward and envisioning the future that you want for your family.
Wow, that's beautiful. And there's a guaranteed basic income for some families. Can you explain that to me? I'm not too sure what that is.
Yeah. So that's another really exciting opportunity that we've had. We're on our second cohort that just started last month. Prior to that, we had a cohort of 26 families who worked with us, receiving $500 a month for 2 years, over the course of 2 years. And then during that time period, of course, they're meeting with their family coaches, utilizing our skills workshops and family connections. And really that was to see of, if people have more money, does that help, right? And I believe what we are seeing is that, yes, it does. It gives families breathing room where, it's the, 1 month you might be worrying about groceries or if you're going to make rent. And for someone with $500 extra and a family coach behind them to really strategize, it gives them the breathing space to actually dream. Because so often we see families in stress and crisis mode. And, we're seeing that, that $500 actually does help. So
Yeah, that is amazing. And, many families are balancing work and childcare and reconnecting with their culture how do programs like MAICC and Economic Mobility Hub help families feel supported instead of doing it all alone? And I think you kind of touched a little bit on that, but can you maybe even elaborate more?
yeah, definitely. And this is something that, I think we all keep coming back to in the work that we do is community, is connection to community, because you really see that in, starting from the Montessori Children's House classroom. It's a classroom made up of 33 months all the way up to 6 years old. And they're building their own community within that classroom. They're building relationships, they're having conflict, they're resolving conflict. So right from the start, they have this beautiful entrance into community and what it can look like and the work that it takes. And the same thing is true for the hub as well. And, supporting families so that they don't feel alone. And they know that, it is hard, it is work. But, to have someone to reach out to, I think we've seen is extremely helpful.
Yeah, my understanding is you spend a lot of time out in the community at powwows and events talking with families. What are parents of little ones telling you what they need the most right now?
Yeah. I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but what I do hear is, they feel alone a lot of the times. They feel alone and overstressed. And, a lot of people don't know where to start. And, they're scared too. There's, sending especially a young child into an environment that is brand new with an adult that is also probably brand new to them. It's work for the parent and it's work for the child. But I'm hearing, from the community as I talk to them about our program, we have the opportunity to not just, here we are here, it's a child care center, but the opportunity to welcome in the child as well as the family. And so we have a wonderful parent coordinator and social worker. She is awesome at what she does. She really works with families if they're having a hard time, whatever the issue is. She will help find resources. And so, payment is never a barrier as well for us. And so if there's a financial stress, we work with a family too. So it's really that cultivating of solid, healthy community supports.
I have a listener, I do believe Jim's listening on Facebook or no, YouTube, and he is just so proud to see, he's at roughly the same age as I am, and he's saying unbelievably nice to see the next generation stepping up and showing us how to do this. And I got to give that shout out to you and Rachel. It is, and we have struggled and for many, many years, and the next generation, we are so proud of what you two are doing for the community. I just had to say that because Jim posted that up on YouTube too. So appreciate your input, Jim. And it is amazing, Kateri, to hear all this that's happening. For parents and grandparents listening, what message would you like to leave them with, and about the power that they have shaping the next generation? And I know by talking to you, you two do understand what the power is.
Yeah. And this is, something that I talk about constantly in my household, just at home, like, wow, this is a lot, but it's also just amazing to see these young beings just developing and having curiosity. So I would say, the power, you can feel it if you're open to it. And I feel like more than not, we are open to it. We just have to allow ourselves to feel that we are doing a good job. And at the same time, we have these sacred beings in our care, which is truly one of the most important jobs anyone can do. These sacred beings are going to be leading us one day. And that makes me really excited.
Wow, great point. Hey, how can our listeners find out more about your programs?
Sure. So you can go on the website, which is maiccmn.org. You can also call the office telephone to get more information, or if you want to set up a tour. And that is 651-478-1189. And then if you are interested in the Economic Mobility Hub, honestly, the fastest way is to just Google us. We are the Economic Mobility Hub for American Indian families in Ramsey County. And that'll bring up some great websites for you to get connected to us.
Hey, I just want to say a big Pinigi thank you. It's enlightening and powerful to hear both your stories about what's happening with our young ones and again, for the next 7 generations, which we all appreciate. Thank you so much, Rachel and Kateri, for being on Native Roots Radio. Hope to see you again.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right on. Hey, up next, we have our friend, Miss Castle from Warrior Woman, and we want to catch up what's going on with the Warrior Woman. So, hey, hold on, and we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. Ho-wah. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds from the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations, and Jim Demeny from the Ojibwe Nation. Additionally, film screens, cinema, and performances are shown on stage. And the Walker is free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Age Jagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Seamus presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org. Aho, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy and foggy conditions with a low of 33. Then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 46. Warmer weather is on the horizon, and what better way to welcome it back than with a fantastic meal and a show at Crooner's Supper Club. Crooners is located in Fridley on Highway 65, just north of I-694. Check out their concert schedules and dinner menus at croonersmn.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert Pilot, and we have our friend Beth Castle with the Warrior Women Project on, and it's been a long time, Beth. Really great to see you, and thank you so much for coming on. I know there's a whole bunch coming on, happen here in the Twin Cities coming up really soon, and let's talk first about the Warrior Women Projects and remind all our relatives out there listening and our new listeners about this project.
Sure. Thank you, Robert, for having me. I know that, Native Roots Radio and your interest in Warrior Women Project really helped us get, our voices across Indian country, which I think, so much has grown with Native Roots Radio, just as Warrior Women Project. And we are busier than ever right now because isn't it not more important than ever we're just seeing what happens when we don't know our history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in ways that is epic. So part of what Warrior Women has done for the past 20 some years is work together with the Indigenous activists, the women in particular of the Red Power movement, to tell the histories of who brought us the word Indigenous, what we're standing on today, all of that deep history, especially tied to a lot of the significant events in the 70s. But right now, if we've ever needed that matriarchal wisdom, we're really working at doing that with our digital oral history collection and the building of our archive.
Yeah, definitely. And, just to remind everyone out there that amazing documentary that you have, I don't know if you mind bringing that up and where
Sure.
people can see it or purchase it.
Yeah, we're actually in a space where we're really trying to get Warrior Women, the documentary that we made for PBS that was co-produced by a whole bunch of different really important actors like the Vision Maker Media, Sundance support that we had. But it came out in 2019 on PBS, and it features a mother and daughter, Madonna Thunderhawk and Marcella Gilbert, who are actively a part of the Warrior Women Project. That's what makes us different, is that these are all ongoing relationships, right? They're never one and done. It's the antithesis, if you will, I hope, of non-extractive, right? These relationships are ongoing. Warrior Women, the film, we'd love for you to see and use in whatever ways possible. You can access through our website, warriorwomen.org. And you can get, like right now, we rent it for a small fee. Contact us if you need it for free. We'll get it to you as well. But we're looking to redistribute it very soon on another, hopefully a level where it can get out there and be even more embraced.
Well, will there be any added segments to it? Because I know since meeting you guys, I've been to Wounded Knee, and I've seen at the time I think Madonna was 79 or 80 years old on a horse, and things like that weren't shown in the movie, and they're still doing the work for our community as they have been for so long, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the aspect of Warrior Women, our goal was always that it was the opening to this massive amount
Mm.
of content that we have. So that's what we're looking at doing right now. It's just that sometimes, you can't tack onto a film in the way that we hope, but what we are doing, for example, one of our big projects this year that I wanted to share here, is it's the 10th anniversary of No Dapple, of
Yeah.
the movement at Standing Rock, of the attempt to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we're going to be producing a short documentary that is meant to celebrate that 10th anniversary. It's going to follow the story in particular of activists Phyllis Young, Madonna Thunderhawk, Mabel Ann Eagle Hunter, a handful of the women who are interviews in our collection, right? We have 100-person collection of Red Power activist interviews that we're making this content from. So you can expect this year a 10th anniversary short film about No Dapple, told through the history of the Red Power movement, as well as a piece on probably what we're hoping is a defining piece on Women of All Red Nations, which was formed in 1978 to work at stopping the sterilization abuse and also the ways extractive industries were impacting water, and all the ways in which we see Indigenous matriarchy being critical to our situation today. So we have 2 major pieces this year coming out.
Well, that's exciting, and I need to text you and talk about some things happening here in the Twin Cities that could maybe really align with your new documentary too. I don't know if you know this or remember this, but Native Roots Radio started because of the Dakota Access Pipeline. There was no information happening, so we're in our 10th season too. So we started at 1 hour, and we would go to Standing Rock and see these things that either were not brought out in the media or that were just construed on how they were
Right.
reported. And so that's why Native Roots Radio first originally started.
I thought that was your origin story, but I didn't want to, presume, because I feel like we're growing with you, because we've
Yeah.
been in a similar way really working to one of our first goals. This started as a history project for me, right? I have a PhD. I'm Dr. Beth, when I need to be fancy. But it started because these women were interviewing with me and saying, you correct the historical record, right?
Mhm.
You make those changes. We want to see that. I want to know that my history, if I share this with you, it's going to be somewhere that's going to make an impact. So we've always tried to balance between how do we blow up that master narrative into something that
Mm.
resembles a truth when we know the entire country is literally built on the blood and bones of a history they don't want told, right? So much so that it's illegal now. But that doesn't stop us, of course. So it is the case that, No Dapple and the Standing Rock movement was a really important rebirth of energy of that social movement period of the 60s and 70s. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
We're growing together.
I agree on both parts, and I remember having Madonna on the show, and I think you were on the show too a few years ago, and they were kind of, son, where is everybody? There was a lull maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s of non-activism, and then Standing Rock happened, and people that you have interviewed over the years, including Madonna, I know she was everything from out in San Francisco with the Alcatraz all the way to Line 3,
Yeah.
doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to be said about it. We make jokes about Madonna, but realizing that Forrest Gump, as a popular cultural reference, we're losing the generation who understands, why that might be funny. That she, but of course she wasn't unwittingly at all of these places. She was a master strategist behind pretty much every single significant public event and effort and movement that happened, tied to the Red Power or Indigenous activism of the 60s and 70s. And it is the case that I don't think our film Warrior Women, which I love and I'm really proud of, because it captures so much of what we wanted to convey. We actually arrived at Standing Rock stuck in the film. Christina King, who's the co-director of Warrior Women, we both were like, the story that we were trying to tell had stalled because Madonna and everyone else was feeling that same kind of lethargy of where are the activists, where's the movement, where do people understand that this is like the beginning of something. They kicked the doors open in the movement period of the 70s, and we have to walk through them. And that Standing Rock was part of that, I think, showing up. And it's something we need now too, right? Because this is the nature of movements. The second they get heavy and real, then the repression is tenfold. So we know that's happening.
I like what I learned from the Warrior Women Project, and is all these women during the Red Power movement and early years of AIM were really the people in the background doing all the work, and not some of the work, all of the work. And that was something at my age I was able to learn through the Warrior Women Project, just by not only, the stories, but just happenstance of the stories, meaning that there was a lot of, humility in the stories.
Yeah, it's a really challenging thing at the end of the day, because part of what my goal with Warrior Women Project as well is, how do we change the way we even look at and understand what is history, right? Not in the way that people are attacking it now, who want to use history as nothing more than a propaganda tool, right? But if you want to tell the truth, how do you make the space for people to be understood in their own worldview? And that's what it took to express that it's not just that women did things too. It's that without women, we wouldn't have transformed the landscape in the way that we did. So it's like the language is really limiting, right? Like background or backbone often means that you're not as prominent or not as important, and that we often think about things in hierarchies, but they're big ecosystems and everyone plays a role.
Well, we just got a minute left in this segment, and I want to talk about this a couple times. But there's some things that are happening here in the Twin Cities. Do you mind bringing that up, and then I want to talk about it again in the next segment?
Sure. So what's happening is that we have one of our educational pieces that we created that you were a part of is the 50th anniversary exhibit honoring the women of Wounded Knee. And it's an exhibit that will be showing at the Fairview Riverside Hospital, sponsored by the Indigenous Healing Circle. And I can talk more about that in the next segment. Is that?
Yeah.
Or should I keep going?
Yeah, well, we got about a minute left here in this segment. Yeah, and I'd love to talk about it even more, but that's amazing. And I had a chance to work with you in the 50th anniversary of Wounded Knee, and just seeing history. I love history for one, and I love documentaries, but just to see history come alive, and these people, were ordinary people that did extraordinary things, and it's just amazing. Well, let's take a quick break, Dr. Beth, and great to see you. This has been really cool, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're talking with Beth Castle, a director of Warrior Women Project, and we're going to talk about more about Warrior Women Project and what's happening here in the Twin Cities this weekend, I think. We'll be right back after the short break. Oh, wow.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
Hi, Dr. Evan Adams, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, Victor, you better be listening.
In this portion of the show, we'd like to bring awareness to our wolf and bear populations throughout Turtle Island. Say no to the hunts.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We were with our friend, Dr. Beth Castle, Director of Warrior Women Projects. And before we get going on what's happening here this weekend, we have something that we want to talk about that's happening on March 31st. And I wonder if you mind letting our listeners know, because we're all over Turtle Island, and I think this is really important to talk about as you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because there's a woman who we met through your show. We never would have encountered her if she hadn't, I think she just called in. And this was early on when you were just kind of gathering people on Zoom, it felt like, and we were having good conversations. But she is an activist who showed up. She was part of Wounded Knee and the liberation of Wounded Knee in 1973. Her name is Lavetta Yigu. I did it wrong, even though her daughter was training with me earlier. Lavetta called in. We were able to do an interview with her, and then she showed up at the 50th anniversary exhibit space where we were on, it was at February 27th, 2023. And she was part of a roundtable that you helped facilitate. And I remember she bought me a blanket that I sleep under every night. Sadly, yeah, she was so sweet. And Lavetta walked on this past year, and she passed away. And it was very unfortunate too, because we wanted to reconnect and learn more from her. I'm hoping we can continue to do that with her daughter Amber, who's helped to organize, along with the Kiowa tribe, a day of honoring and recognition. It's actually Lavetta Yigu's celebrating her day, the entire day. There's an event the 5th to the 8th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, March 31st. And we'll be able to share some more information on our website, and I could share it with you as well. But part of why I wanted to bring it up is that she just told the most powerful story when we got on the Zoom call with her to do an interview, because we couldn't do it in person. It wasn't safe because of COVID. She sang the Ames song. I hadn't even said hello to her. I hadn't known her in any other way, but she just really told the most powerful, raw story of what it was like to be a really young person and step into this space and be part of the 71-day occupation. And she was there every day. And so that's one of the ways in which, how important this community space is that you've created. I just wanted to bring that back, because to see more and more women, and I know there's more out there, contact us. We want to do your oral history and help see that you're part of the larger historical narrative, and see that this goes back to your communities. And that brings us back to this traveling exhibit that we've created, and she's one of the panels on the exhibit.
Yeah, it's amazing too. And the people that were there are still doing things like Stephanie Autumn, who is also a young person. She's still working right now with women prisoners and helping them. I mean, the I guess the fire, the amber is still bright with a lot of our relatives that went through all this all these years ago too, that are still doing it.
I mean, that's the thing that is so important is, you're not a movement activist. You don't retire, right? Like and also there's no pension in the movement. So we need to look at ways we can take care of these elders who put everything on the line in really uncomfortable situations. They also stood up to their own tribes, right? Often to corrupt leaders in their tribes, which is another thing that, is a challenge to handle. But, that's the part of this is that one of the things I pride about what we're doing with Warrior Women Project is we're activating our archives, right? Like that sounds like the flash word and the hashtag or whatever, but it's just real. It's just that we always need our history immediately, right? It's never something that goes into a history book that goes on a shelf that isn't engaged with. Like those lessons have to be immediate. And so often we don't listen to our mothers in the same way, and so they have these stories. And I'm so glad that Lavetta shared her story and became part of something bigger in that way. But we have yet, there's so much more we need to know. Come as an Oklahoma, tribal person, what can we learn from her? Because there were quite a few women, like Frances Wise, who is from Oklahoma as well, who played a really important role in the American Indian movement and Women of All Red Nations. So, it's really awesome to see these connections be made, and definitely have like her daughter, who I don't know that well yet, but I'm hoping we can connect more in how we continue to help tell the history of her mom and the people that she knew, because that's how it works, right? Like it's family based. You find one person and then you expand out to see who else did organizing that made it possible for you to go out and do what you did in the day. So
Awe-inspiring. And let's talk a little bit again about the display that's going to be at, is it Fairview that's going to be at?
yeah, this is something it's been organized by Wyatt Pickner and Heather Fahey. I'm hoping I've said her name right. We made a connection locally when we did an event where we were supporting and bringing together some of the women of all Red Nations, including Winona LaDuke, Lisa Bellinger, Nancy Shippentauer, Lakota Hardin, a number of people. This was back in October, and we met Heather there. And she's part of the Indigenous Healing Circle. I believe it's an employee group within and I'll stand to be corrected if I need to, because I don't want to misrepresent anything. But they basically did what we were hoping, which was invite and bring the exhibit to Fairview Riverside in the West Building. And it will be there from March 20th to April 1st. And anyone can come and engage with it. There's a reception on Friday from 12 to 2 p.m. this Friday, the 20th. But part of this, and you mentioned Stephanie Autumn earlier, Lisa Bellinger, who is a pretty, well-known local activist whose mother, Pat Bellinger, was one of the co-founders of WARN, Women of All Red Nations, and the American Indian Movement, are going to host this 16-panel exhibit that we created those years ago so that we could see that this, and each panel is an interview that's in our collection. And it's a brief bit about the story of that woman, and it's a 3x7 foot panel. And then you can use a QR code, or be instructed on how you can see on our website. You can listen to the clip of the interview that's relevant. So it's a very interactive experience, and it is meticulously researched. So unlike a lot of things where you're like, often people said it and they meant, women were there and they did this and they did that, but who were they? When were they born? What else did they do? What were their lives like, right? So that's what we try to do with this exhibit. And also the thing that we're so proud of is that it is a handful of folks who identified as American Indian movement activists, members, leaders, being part of the movement. But many of the women here are what we call the matriarchs of Pine Ridge, who were the middle-aged women who were holding it down and pushing back against the corruption that was happening locally. So it's a very powerful exhibit, and we're hoping especially as it's based in Minneapolis right now, that it gets out to a lot more areas and that it can be seen and other people want to take it on and show it and engage with it.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know Heather very well. She's been on the show. As a matter of fact, I reached
Great.
out to Heather and she has pneumonia right now. And then
Yeah, I didn't.
let's call Dr. Beth Castle. I haven't talked to you in a while. And I am so glad that we talked because we need to do this more often. And one more time about the exhibit in Minneapolis.
The Women of Wounded Knee exhibit, March 20th through April 1st, will be at Fairview Riverside West Building, available to the public to view. And you can find out more at warriorwomen.org. And we really invite you to join our mailing list. We really want to be able to be in direct communication with you. So all of those can be found at warriorwomen.org.
Well, thank you so much. Beth, do you mind holding on after the show? I just want to ask you something really quick. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plenty Coop, the ground on which we stand on. It's sacred ground. It's the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and vote. We'll be here tomorrow. This has been Native Roots Radio. I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some